This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claim School Incorporated with another true crime of insurance fraud story and video number 56. Insurance frauds are not born, they are trained. Willy never intended to be a criminal. His ambition in life from age 3 was to be a meat cutter like his dad. Willy cruised through high school with a solid C average. He knew that as a meat cutter he only needed a steady hand. Literature and mathematics held no interest for him. As a child, he would visit the store where his father worked and watch sides of beef turn into chopped steaks and hamburger with rapt attention. His father, he believed, was an artist who turned ugly chunks of dead animals into beautiful and delicious food. His ambition was to be the Picasso of meat cutters. When Willy graduated from high school, his father helped him join the Meat Cutters Union as an apprentice. He began his career at a neighborhood Piggy Wiggly market. As an apprentice, Willy was ordered about by the journeyman meat cutter. The duties of an apprentice included sweeping up the cuttings, collecting the excess fat so that it could be sold to the renderer, and lifting and carrying carcasses for the journeyman. On slow days, the journeyman would let Willy practice on the giant bandsaw. Willy was happy. Even as an apprentice meat cutter, he was doing what he always wanted to do. He was learning his trade. He also could bring a few cuts of filet mignon to his girlfriend's father. When her father was happy with Willy, his girlfriend was even more loving. After 6 months on the job, the journeyman was laid up with the flu. The manager asked Willy to cut the day's meat since there was no other journeyman available. Willy was proud of the confidence his manager had in him, and whistled as the saw sliced through lamb ribs like a butter knife through brie. It was so easy. Willy became overconfident. He attempted to increase the speed with which he was cutting the meat to prove to the manager he was as good as the journeyman. He was not. A lovely young woman in a halter top and shorts walked by the window of his meat-cutting station. Willy lost concentration for the moment, sufficient to allow him to slice off his right index finger at the second knuckle. He saw it fall into the pile of lamb ribs, but felt no pain. The saw had cut so quickly. He held his handkerchief to the nub, picked up the severed digit, and put it in his shirt pocket. On the intercom, he asked the manager to call the paramedics. The pain reached his consciousness, and he fainted. The next thing he remembered, he was waking up in a hospital room with his hand a mass of bandages. Willy was covered, of course, by workers' compensation and received 75% of his pay and all his medical bills paid. He was found partially permanently disabled from his profession as a meat cutter and would receive a small stipend for the rest of his life. The surgeon sewed his finger back on, but it never regained its function. Willy, at no expense to himself, was retrained by the Workers' Compensation Insurance Company as a railroad track layer. Willy enjoyed working on the railroad, but it wasn't as much fun as meat cutting. By the time Willy had taken his first job with the AT&T Railroad, he was an expert on workers' compensation benefits. Willy knew that if he was collecting benefits, they came tax-free. He made as much or more net from workers' compensation as he would make working, and he knew how to deal with the doctors so that he could stay on the disability rolls as long as possible. He also understood the benefits of insurance. Immediately upon starting work with the railroad, Willy purchased 2 disability insurance policies that would pay him benefits of $1,000 a month each if he was disabled. Within 4 months of taking a job with the railroad, Willy became bored with the work. While replacing a section of track, he saw his opportunity. As Willy bent down to pick up the track off the ties, he fell back to the ground and writhed in pain. He said nothing to his fellow workers other than, "My back, my back." Willy's back was really not hurt, but he knew there was no way for a doctor to tell whether he was really in pain. He saw no reason to actually have an injury, and he was not willing to, nor did he think he could afford to lose another digit. For 8 months, Willy collected his disability insurance payments and workers' compensation benefits. With the aid of an attorney, he compromised his permanent disability claim with the workers' compensation insurer. Willy received, because of the injury to his back, a cash payment after paying his lawyer of $40,000. That was his monthly income while on temporary disability, and it was more than double that while working and was tax-free. Willy had learned how to make money at insurance fraud. He found it was easy. With the proceeds of his workers' compensation claim, Willy bought himself an 8-year-old Corvette, a Rolex watch, and put a down payment on a small house in Bakersfield. He worked for a few months in the oil fields of Bakersfield, and Willy found the work to be much too strenuous and not as lucrative as when he was on workers' compensation. He needed a new lump sum in cash, but felt it would be difficult to have another injury on the job. So he set his house on fire. The adjuster was kind. Without even asking, the adjuster found Willy a room in a luxury hotel. Willy was told he could stay for the first few weeks while the insurance company figured out the cost to replace his house. Then, when the contract was let to rebuild the house, the insurance company adjuster found a rental house for Willy to live in at no cost. Whatever Willy put down on the list of property he claimed destroyed in the fire, the adjuster believed. Willy was reimbursed for his claimed loss. It did not seem to matter to the adjuster that there was almost no furniture in the house. Willy had outfitted his house from the local Goodwill store. By the time his house was rebuilt, he had a brand new house worth twice as much as when he bought it, completely furnished with new furniture from quality stores. He immediately put the house on the market and made a $100,000 profit. With the money, he traded in his car and bought a brand new Corvette, a gold and diamond ring, and a Rolex President with a diamond face. He gave his old Rolex to his father, the butcher. Life was good. Willy decided to go into business for himself. He would become a builder. He attended the contractor's license school for 1 day and learned enough to pass the test and become a licensed contractor. Willy was in business for himself. He really didn't need to work. He was going to use the contractor's license to make more money off of insurance. Any construction job he did would be paid for completely by an insurance company. Willy's downfall was his failure to study during high school and his total lack of knowledge of how insurance worked. He had spent all of the money from the fire and needed some seed money to pay for his first construction project. To do so, he obtained appraisals on his Rolex watch and diamond ring and had them scheduled on a tenant's homeowner's policy that he had acquired when he moved into an apartment. He then went to another insurance agent's and bought a personal articles floater from Lloyd's of London on the same watch and ring. He bought a third policy from Insurance and Indemnity Company as a schedule added to a second tenant's homeowner's policy. Willy invited an acquaintance to go to Tijuana with him and paid a local $50 to fake an armed robbery in Tijuana, Mexico. The acquaintance, not in on the fake, lent credibility to the report of the Tijuana police that they were victims of an armed robbery. Willy then made claim to his 3 insurers, believing he could easily collect for the stolen watch and ring 3 times. What Willy did not know was that the insurance industry, Frustrated with the volume of insurance fraud, it created the Property Insurance Loss Registry, which merged into and became part of the ISO All Claims database, both of which maintained records of all claims presented to insurance companies in the United States who were members. Willy's two domestic insurers were members of the National Insurance Crime Bureau and the ISO All Claims database. Lloyd's was not. When each insurer submitted their report of Willy's robbery, the ISO and NICB advised both insurers of the other claim that appeared to be similar to their claim. Each insurer had in place a special fraud investigation unit, an SIU. The SIU investigators contacted each other and found that the two claims were identical and based upon the same appraisals. Lloyd's, through their independent investigators, also used the All Claims database, and the adjusters for the three insurers shared information concerning Willy's claim. Willy's claim was denied by all three. Reports were made to the Fraud Division of the California Department of Insurance. Willy, through greed and stupidity, did not profit from his attempt at multiple insurance fraud. The Fraud Division, receiving more than 3,000 reports from insurers of potential fraudulent claims that month, elected not to investigate Willy. Willy went back to work in the oil fields, an unhappy but wiser young man. He decided to stick to what he knew. Within 6 months, Willy fell off an oil tank and broke his leg in 3 places. Although it hurt a great deal, Willy was happy. He had workers' compensation again, and with his disability insurance policy, his take-home pay tripled. He knew the leg would be slow to heal, and he could enjoy a life of leisure paid for by all of the other stupid people who bought workers' compensation insurance but did not benefit from it as did Willy. This video was adapted from my book, Insurance Fraud Costs Everyone, which supplements my treatise in 2 volumes, Insurance Fraud 2nd Edition, and my book, Insurance Fraudsters Deserve No Quarter, brand new, all of which are available as Kindle books and paperbacks and some hardcovers from Amazon.com. If you view this video on Rumble, please click on the Rumble button, and if you view it on YouTube, please click on the like button. Thank you for your attention.